young woman woke up in the hospital with a baby in her arm and people telling her she had just given birth, but she was sure she didn't have any children, and what she discovered next is hair-raising. I woke up to the strong smell of alcohol and the low hum of machines around me. My eyes took a while to focus. The light from the ceiling blinded me a little. My body felt weak, as if I had been running for days without stopping, and suddenly I felt a soft weight in my arms. I looked down, still half dizzy, and saw a baby so small, so quiet. He slept as if he knew nothing of the world around him, but my heart began to beat very fast. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know why he was with me, and worst of all, I didn't even know who I was. I tried to move, but a sharp pain made me groan. My stomach hurt. My head felt like it was going to explode. The door opened and a nurse came in with a somewhat tired smile. She said in a calm voice, "Hello, Camila. How are you feeling?" I looked at her, trying to understand. Camila? Who is Camila? I thought. But fear prevented me from speaking. The nurse came closer, looked at the baby, and added, "You had a very cute baby boy. Everything is fine now. You feel calmer. You were nervous, very tired, a little lost. To be honest, it's normal to forget things after giving birth. It happened to me too. I felt all dizzy, you know? But I don't remember anything. Not myself. Not being pregnant." She put her hand on my shoulder and squeezed gently. "That will pass. Get some rest. Your body and your mind need time." I shook my head slowly. My heart was beating very fast, as if something was wrong, very wrong. But everyone said it was normal, that it was just fatigue, that I would remember soon. But inside me something was screaming. Something was telling me that none of it was true. The nurse left, leaving me alone with that baby. The silence in the room was only broken by his soft breathing. I looked at him, but I didn't feel anything that made sense. I had no memories, no answers, just a strange feeling, a painful emptiness. My hands were shaking so much that I could barely hold him. It was as if my arms were weak, without strength, as if they had forgotten how to care for someone. The bedsheet was wrinkled, the room was cold, and every part of my body ached as if I had been in a fight that I couldn't even remember. Every breath hurt. Every movement was difficult. My chest felt tight. It was an emptiness that made me feel even more lost. My mind was blank. No names, no faces, no bits of my history came to mind. It was as if I had been born there in that hospital, already an adult with no past, and that scared me more than anything. The baby started to cry, that thin, sad cry, as if asking for help, was the only sound in that cold room. And even though I couldn't remember anything, I knew he needed me, and that scared me enormously. How could I take care of someone when I didn't even know how to take care of myself? I looked at him, trembling. I tried to caress him, but my hand wouldn't stop moving. It was as if everything in me was broken, a mixture of pain, fear, and a kind of love I didn't yet understand. I wanted to protect him, but I also wanted answers. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. It was useless. My head was still empty. No memories came. Nothing. Only his crying. Soft, faint, painful. It was as if that crying said what I felt inside, but couldn't say out loud. I stood there, not knowing what to do, waiting for someone to come in, for someone to explain. The door opened slowly and a doctor came in. Her hair was pulled back in a simple bun. She wore glasses, and she looked at me with an expression that mixed concern with urgency. She approached the bed and spoke slowly, as if I were too fragile to hear anything louder. "Ma'am, are you okay? I was the one who delivered your baby. I was told that you are nervous and seem to have forgotten a few things. You gave birth. This baby is your son." At that moment, my heart froze. She said it with such certainty, as if she were telling me that the sky is blue. But something inside me screamed, "No, it wasn't." I didn't know how to explain it. I had no memory. I know, but I had a feeling, a certainty that came from within my chest. Those words made no sense. It was as if she had told me a story that wasn't mine. I held the baby more carefully, as if he might slip away. He was beautiful. He had very light skin, eyes with long lashes, and yet something didn't fit. I said to the doctor in a soft but firm voice, "I don't remember being pregnant or coming here. I don't remember anything. How can you be sure he's my son?" She took a deep breath, looked at the papers on her clipboard, and answered without looking at me. "You came here in labor. You were very nervous. You said your name was Camila. You went through a difficult time, but everything turned out fine. The baby was born healthy, but I tried to insist. I don't feel like he's mine, I swear. I feel like something is wrong. She came closer and grabbed my arm with that gesture of someone who wants to calm someone who is not well. Look, sometimes after giving birth, women feel this way. It can take time for your memory to return. You're in shock. It's normal. The important thing now is to rest. Your son needs you. You can breastfeed him now. Your body is ready for that. Breastfeed your son. She kept saying that, but I looked at him and felt as if someone had put him there, as if he had been left in my arms and hadn't come from me. But I couldn't prove anything. I couldn't even say my own name without depending on others. It was as if everything I was had been erased, and now they had written me a new story, a story I didn't recognize. I stood there in silence as she left the room. Tears began to fall without me realizing it, because the pain of not remembering anything was already enormous. But the pain of hearing that this baby was mine, and at the same time feeling that it wasn't, that was even worse. And yet, with a broken heart, I hugged that child tighter, because even if it was a lie, he was with me, and until the truth came out, I wasn't going to let him go. When I realized it, I was able to breastfeed him. My body reacted. I had really had a child. That scared me even more. When the doctor left and the room fell silent again, I began to look around desperately. I wanted anything that would tell me who I was. Apart from Camila, a document, a bracelet, a bag, any piece of paper, anything with my real name on it. But there was nothing, nothing, just that cold, white room and the baby in my arms. With my hand still shaking, I pulled back the sheet. I looked at the side of the bed, at the nightstand, even on the floor. Nothing, not even a piece of paper with my name on it. It was as if I had appeared there, out of nowhere. The door opened again, and a nurse came in. She was younger. Her face was tired, but her eyes were kind. She smiled when she saw me awake and said, "Hello, Camila. Do you need anything?" That name again, Camila. I took a deep breath and spoke softly. "Why are they calling me Camila?" She looked at me in surprise, but tried to remain calm. "That's the name on your file. That's how you got here. But I don't feel like that's my name. I don't recognize myself with that name. It's as if they were calling me something else." She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "It could be part of the amnesia the doctor mentioned. It's common when a person goes through trauma. And where are my documents? My ID, my wallet, anything?" She shook her head a little sadly. "When you arrived, you didn't have anything with you, just the clothes you were wearing. And then the baby was born, and we thought it was because of the rush, you know? That someone would come later to bring the rest of your things, or that you would tell us your full name or call someone, but no one has come." She looked down and nodded. "Not yet." I looked at the baby in my lap. Now he was calm, as if the world wasn't. But when my hands began to move away from his little body, something pulled me back. A knot in my stomach, an emptiness, a sadness that squeezed me so tightly that I began to cry. I brought him back into my arms, hugged him carefully, and rocked him gently, as if that movement could also calm me. He just settled into my arms, as if it were the safest place in the world. And at that moment, even though I had doubts, even though I felt something strange, as if something were wrong, I knew I couldn't leave him. It didn't matter what anyone said. It didn't matter if the memory never came back. That baby was now my responsibility. The days passed slowly, as if time had forgotten to move forward. The window of the room showed the sky changing color, the sun rising and then setting. But inside me, everything remained the same, empty. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I came from. I didn't know where I was going, and no one else seemed to know either. I asked several times for documents, for anything that had come with me, a bag, a wallet, a piece of paper, a phone, but the answers were always the same. You arrived with nothing. We already looked. It was just you and the baby. That made me even more nervous. How can someone show up at a hospital with a baby in their arms, and no one know where they came from? I tried to remember. I closed my eyes, racked my brain, asked God for a clue, but all that came was darkness, an overwhelming silence. as if my history had been deliberately ripped from me. No one came, no visitors, no family, no friends. No one called, no one asked about me. Every day I waited for someone to open the door and say, "I found you." But the door only opened to doctors, nurses, strangers with quick smiles, who never stopped to really look me in the eye. I felt invisible, forgotten, as if I had been erased from the world. But even so, I wasn't completely alone, because every time I looked into the baby's eyes, something inside me stirred. That love I felt was strange. It hurt. It hurt because it was real, but it didn't come with answers. And I just wanted to know. I wanted to know if someone was going to show up to look for us. I wanted to know what had happened to me. But the days passed, and nothing changed. Just him and me in that seemingly endless room, alone in the world. On the fourth day, a different doctor came into my room. She didn't smile or pretend that everything was fine. She spoke directly and quickly. "You're physically fine now. We're going to discharge you today." I stared at her, not understanding. My body still hurt. My head was still empty. I didn't remember who I was. I had nowhere to go. I had no one to come for me. She noticed my confusion and said, "We got a provisional birth certificate with the name you gave at delivery. It was the only thing we could do. Later, you have to go to the civil registry with documents to register the child, but don't tell anyone about this. Actually, we shouldn't let you leave without papers, but because of your confusion, we don't want to stress you out anymore." She handed me a folded piece of paper. My hands were shaking when I took it. Mateo Hernandez. Mother, Camila Hernandez. Father unknown. I looked at her with tears in my eyes. But I have nowhere to go. I don't even know where I live. I have nothing. She crossed her arms and took a deep breath. "If you don't remember, you have to go to the police. They can investigate and help you find a place to stay. Here at the hospital, we've done everything we can. We need the room for another patient." And the baby shrugged. "He's yours. He's registered in your name. Now it's your turn, not mine." Everything was up to me. The responsibility, the fear, the silence. They sent me away as if I were just anyone, just another woman leaving with her child in her arms. But I wasn't that. I was someone broken, lost, with no past, with a baby in my arms that might or might not be mine. I left the hospital with a plastic bag with 2 diapers, a rag, and that makeshift birth certificate. The sun outside hurt my eyes. The streets were crowded. Cars were passing by. People were talking loudly, and I was standing there on the sidewalk with a baby in my arms, not knowing where to go. My feet were bare. My heart was broken. No one was waiting for me. No one called my name. I was just another person in the crowd, a woman with a baby trying to remember who she was. But how could I remember if no one ever told me who I was? I walked slowly, aimlessly. The baby slept in my arms, unaware of the fear I felt. And there, in the middle of that world that was too big, I understood something. I was completely alone, without a home, without a family, without a memory, only with that baby who looked at me as if he expected me to know what to do. But I didn't know. I just walked one step at a time, trying not to fall, trying not to cry, because now more than ever, he only had me, and I only had him. What if I went to the police and they took him away from me? The sun was already beginning to set in the sky when I reached the subway entrance. The baby was wrapped in a thin blanket, asleep in my arms, and my arms ached from carrying him so much, but I didn't let him go. I entered the station as if walking in the dark, not knowing what I would find. I had no destination, no idea where to go. I only knew that I couldn't stand still. People passed quickly by me with backpacks, folders, phones in their hands, each on their own way, with their faces, their lives, their names. And I was nobody, just walking as if waiting for someone to say, at any moment, "Hey, I know you. Come on, you're part of my family." But no one said it. No one looked at me twice, and I don't even remember where I was going or what I was thinking. I bought a ticket with the few coins they gave me at the hospital and carefully went down the stairs, trying not to fall. The noise of the train coming was loud, like thunder. The wind hit my face and the baby's little face. He moved a little, but he didn't wake up. I sat down on an empty bench and stayed there, holding him tightly in my arms, my heart pounding and my stomach growling with hunger. I hadn't eaten in hours. The last thing I had was a cookie at the hospital. My body was crying out for help, but I wasn't thinking only of myself. I was thinking of him, what he was going to eat, what he was going to wear, where he was going to sleep. And the more I thought, the more the fear inside me grew. We got on the train. I sat in a corner, curled up, looking at people's faces. I was looking for something familiar, a look that would light up when it saw me, a mouth that would say my name, but nothing happened. It was as if I were invisible. The stations passed by. The world outside was full of life, while inside me, everything was silence and doubt. I began to cry softly, trying not to wake the baby. The tears ran hot, burning my face. I cried from hunger, fear, exhaustion, and nostalgia for a life I no longer remembered. But even though I cried, even though I had no direction, I didn't stop. I kept looking at everything, searching for an answer, a memory, station by station, and when I couldn't remember anything, I got off and walked street by street, as if the answer were just around the next corner. I just wanted someone to see me, to recognize me, to say my name, my real name, to say, "You belong somewhere." But the world remained silent, and I kept going because I had a baby in my arms, and he needed me to be strong, even though I didn't know who I was. My feet began to fail me. I walked aimlessly, without strength, with the baby clinging to my chest like someone clinging to their last hope. My eyes were swollen from crying so much. Hunger hurt. The cold cut into my skin. And fear hurt the most. I sat on a park bench, trembling, with the baby asleep in my arms. I looked at the streetlights, the cars passing in the distance, the people walking quickly, and I thought about lying down right there, maybe sleeping, maybe disappearing. That's when a sweet but firm voice, she gave me a warm bath, clean clothes, freshly made soup, and prepared a mattress on the floor for me with soft blankets. And while I was getting settled, she stared at the baby sleeping peacefully in a corner of the living room. "What's his name?" she asked softly. "Matteo," I replied with tears in my eyes. She smiled a little. "That's a beautiful name. Now you have a place to stay. Stay as long as you need." And that night, with food in my stomach and my heart warmed by something I thought no longer existed, my dear, all because of a woman who didn't even know me, but saw me and gave me a home, even if it was only for one night, even if she didn't know who I was. A few days passed, and no memories came. Matteo got sick one rainy morning. I woke up to his crying, which this time was not like the others. It was a higher-pitched, weaker cry, as if he were asking for help. I picked him up and felt his body was very hot. His skin was burning with fever. His little face was red. I was very scared. "Doña Carmen!" I shouted, my voice trembling. "He's very hot. He has a fever." She ran out of her room, looked at him, and put her hand on his forehead. "Yes, he has a high fever. We have to take him to the hospital right away." I didn't think twice. I wrapped Matteo in a blanket, put on the first flip-flops I saw, and Doña Carmen drove me to the hospital. It was the same place where it had all begun. The entrance, the smell, the reception area. Everything gave me chills, but all I could think about was saving my baby. When we arrived, I ran to the emergency room. A nurse took Matteo from my arms and led us to a room. My heart was beating so fast that I could hardly breathe. A doctor came in shortly after. When she saw the paper with my name on it, her expression changed. She looked at me strangely and said without any emotion, "You again?" I didn't understand. I took a step toward her. "He has a fever. He's very hot. He cries non-stop. Please help him." She took Matteo, checked him quickly, but didn't even look me in the face. She did everything in silence, without explaining anything, and there I was, with my heart in my hand, waiting for any word, any explanation. After a few minutes, she handed him back to me and said curtly, "He'll be fine. It was just a bad cold. I'll give you some medicine, but next time, take better care of him." I was paralyzed. The way she spoke, the coldness in her eyes, it hurt me. I hadn't done anything wrong. I was taking care of Matteo as best I could. I had nowhere to turn, but he never lacked love, affection, or my arms. She left the room without saying another word. I watched the door close and felt a void in my chest. It was as if she knew something, as if my name brought back memories that I couldn't even have. But why? What had I done? or what had been done to me. I hugged Matteo tightly and kissed his sweaty forehead. He was breathing better now. The crying had stopped, but inside me, the fear only grew. There was something strange about that hospital, something no one wanted to talk about. With a heavy heart and a head full of questions, I left the room where the doctor had left me. Matteo slept peacefully in my arms, but I couldn't rest. That phrase she had said again wouldn't leave my head. The way she looked at me wasn't surprise. It was distrust, maybe fear, as if my name was a problem. I went down to the reception desk. The girl at the counter was young, wore large glasses, and kept typing on the computer. I stood there for a while until she noticed I was there. "Good afternoon. Can I help you?" I took a deep breath and tried not to show how nervous I was. I need to know more about my admission here to the hospital. When I arrived, no one knew anything. "My name is Camila Hernandez. I just want to know if there is any more information. Anything, addresses, phone numbers." She frowned and typed something on the computer. She stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then she put on a serious face. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't give you any information without a photo ID. But I don't have any ID." My voice came out louder than I wanted it to. "I came here with nothing. You gave me that name. I need to know if there's anything, a number, an address, a photo, any clue." She looked at me with a little pity, but her tone remained firm. "Look, I understand, but those are the hospital rules. Without an ID, I can't show you anything. You have to go to the police or social services. But you have my name. You took care of me. I was here with this baby in my arms, knowing nothing about myself. Someone put me in the system. Who was it?" She shook her head slowly. "I can't tell you that. Only with a court order." I felt as if I had been hit. I stood there, staring at her, hoping she would change her mind, that she would see my desperation, but she just looked away and back to typing. I left the reception area with tears in my eyes. The hospital where I should have received help was hiding something, and now, in addition to not remembering who I was, I felt that someone was doing everything they could to prevent me from finding out. Matteo stirred in my arms with a slight sigh. I hugged him tighter. If the world wanted to leave me in the dark, I was going to fight, even if I was alone, because something was very wrong, and I had to know the truth for myself and for him. When I returned from the hospital, still shaking from everything I had experienced inside, Doña Carmen was waiting for me in the car. We drove all the way back without saying a word. She realized that I just wanted to think. We went into the house. She went to the kitchen and quickly returned with a cup of hot tea in her hand and looked at me with that motherly gaze that understands everything without you having to say anything. "The doctor treated you badly, didn't she?" she said in a low but firm voice. I just nodded, trying not to cry. I sat down on the couch with Matteo in my arms, still asleep, and there, in that silence, the tears began to flow. It wasn't because of physical pain, it was because of exhaustion, anguish, and feeling helpless. She came over to me and stroked my hair tenderly. Then she sat down next to me and said, "There's someone who might be able to help you. She's a very brave woman. She gets involved in difficult situations, heavy stories. Her name is Lucy. She's a journalist. She's already helped other women who have been through similar things to you." I looked at her, my eyes still full of tears. "Do you think she'll want to listen to me?" "Of course she will. I know her heart, and I know yours too. You need someone who will dig deeper, who isn't afraid to seek the truth." Doña Carmen picked up the phone, dialed a number, and minutes later, Lucy was on her way. When she arrived, it was as if hope had walked through the door with her. She was wearing jeans, a simple blouse, her hair tied back in a ponytail. Her gaze was serious, but very attentive. She sat down in the chair across from me and listened quietly. I told her everything, that I woke up in the hospital without knowing my name, with a baby in my arms. The strange report, the way the doctor treated me, the receptionist who refused to give me information. She didn't interrupt me once. Only when I finished did she speak calmly. "Your case is not unique." I opened my eyes in surprise. "What do you mean, it's not?" "That hospital has received complaints before, cases similar to yours. Women who disappeared, babies who appeared with changed names, improvised birth certificates, but nothing has ever been proven. The stories were silenced." My heart began to beat faster. "So I'm not crazy?" She shook her head. Not at all. I believe you. And if you want, I want to investigate this with you. I'm going to help you find your family and discover the truth about that hospital. At that moment, I felt a warmth in my chest after so long listening, not hearing that these were things in my head. Finally, someone believed me. Lucy didn't look at me with pity. She looked at me with strength. And there, with her and Doña Carmen by my side, I felt for the first time that I wasn't alone, that my story did matter, and that maybe the truth was closer than I thought. That night, fear and courage walked with me and Lucy. We waited until nightfall to go to the hospital. Lucy said she knew a way to get into the internal archives. I didn't know exactly how she was going to do it. She scrolled down. There's no information about a delivery. Nothing. It doesn't even say you were pregnant. There's no date of birth for the baby. No name for the father. No address for relatives. Just this name, Camila Hernandez. So there's no proof that I had that baby there. She shook her head slowly. Nothing. My head began to spin. That was the proof I needed. But it hurt. It hurt to know that maybe everything they had told me until now was a lie, that they had deceived me. Lucy continued searching, her eyes fixed on the screen. And there's something else. I looked up the baby's name, Mateo Hernandez, and there is no birth record with that name, not on that day, nor on any of the days close to it. What? He wasn't born here. No baby named Mateo of his age ever came through this hospital. But look at this. She opened another document. It was an old report with notes made by a nurse. It said that a baby was given to a disoriented patient by a hospital worker, but it didn't say the worker's name, only an ID number. That nurse was fired. I was silent. I couldn't say anything. My eyes were filled with tears. Lucy touched my hand and said softly, "They deceived you. This was all planned, but now we're going to find the people who did this to you. I promise." After that night at the hospital, I couldn't sleep. I spent hours sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at the crib where Mateo was sleeping, thinking about everything I had seen. The pain in my chest was great, but the desire to know the truth was even greater. Lucy promised to continue investigating the next day, and I knew that if anyone was capable of finding out more, it was her. In the afternoon, she arrived with tired but wide-awake eyes. She sat down on the couch, opened her backpack, and took out some crumpled papers, handwritten notes. I realized she had spent the night investigating. "I got the nurse's name," she said bluntly. "Ana Camila Solis." My heart froze. It was real. There was a name, a person behind it all. I settled into the chair and took Lucy's hand, afraid of what was coming. She had worked at the hospital for many years. Good track record, good evaluations. But she was suddenly fired, with no official reason. That happened a few days after you left the hospital, and no one else saw her. Lucy shook her head. She disappeared. She doesn't answer her phone anymore. She left social media, changed her address. Some colleagues said she looked scared in recent weeks. Others said she was involved in something strange, but no one knows for sure. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to hold back the tears. Her image began to form in my mind, even though I didn't remember her. Lucy touched my shoulder and said calmly, "We're going to find that woman, and when we do, you'll have the answers you need so badly. Just hang in there with a lump in your throat." Because at that moment, all I wanted was to know the truth. No matter how much it hurt, I needed to find Ana Camila Solis. She was the missing piece, the person who might be able to give me back the part of me that was stolen from me. I could no longer ignore the doubt that was eating away at me. It was like an open wound that hurt just to look at, but I knew I had to face it. I sat down with Lucy and spoke in a low voice, almost unable to look her in the eye. "I want to take a DNA test. I need to know the truth. I need to know if Mateo is really my son." Lucy just took my hand affectionately and said, "I'll take care of that for you. You deserve to know." Those were days of waiting, long days, filled with silence and doubts. I continued to care for Mateo as usual. I bathed him, put him to bed, sang softly to him when he cried, but every time I looked into his eyes, I wondered if I had ever really carried him inside me, and that doubt suffocated me. The day the results arrived, Lucy came to me with a sealed envelope. I was trembling. My knees felt weak. The room became small, cramped. I sat on the edge of the bed with the envelope in my hands and took a deep breath. "Do you want me to read it?" she asked carefully. I shook my head. I needed to read it. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I opened the envelope slowly. The letters were blurry. My eyes burned until I read what was there. Clear, dry, direct. Genetic incompatibility. Mateo was not my biological son. At that moment, everything around me went dark. I felt as if the floor had been pulled out from under my feet. My legs gave way, my body fell forward, and I cried. I cried with a pain I had never felt before, a pain that broke me inside, a pain with no name. Lucy tried to hug me, but all I could do was hold that paper in my hand and repeat, "I knew it. I knew it." But even though I knew it, it hurt because deep down I still had a little hope. The hope that he was mine, that it was all a mistake, a misunderstanding. But it wasn't. It was true. He wasn't mine. I spent hours crying, sitting on the floor with my face in my hands, until, in the midst of the silence, Mateo woke up and started crying. His crying brought me back to reality. I got up, went to the crib, picked him up, put his little head on my shoulder, and cried some more. But this time it was different, because even though that piece of paper said he wasn't mine, I felt in my heart that he was, not by blood, but by soul, by love. I kissed him on the forehead and whispered, "You are mine, Mateo. It doesn't matter what that piece of paper says. I am your mom, and I always will be because no one can take away the love I have for you. Not this hospital, not that nurse, not even the hardest truth in the world." And in that embrace, I knew. He didn't come from me, but he came for me, and that was all I needed. After the test results, I thought that nothing else could affect me, that I had already felt the strongest pain in the world. But life still had more truths to throw in my face, and none of them came gently. Lucy arrived early one morning with a serious face and red eyes from not sleeping well. She sat down on the couch, took a battered envelope out of her bag, and said calmly, "I found an old complaint. It was hidden among a lot of papers." My heart started beating faster. What kind of complaint? She took out a sheet of paper and read it slowly in a firm voice. "It's from a young mother. She said she gave birth to a girl. All the tests said it was a girl, the ultrasounds too. But when she woke up, they put a boy in her arms. She screamed, asked for explanations, but no one listened to her. No one helped her. Shortly after that, she disappeared." I put my hand over my mouth. The tears came without permission. It was as if she were reading my own story, only from the other side. "They switched her baby." My voice came out softly. "It could be that my daughter is also lost out there." Lucy looked at me with eyes full of pain. I knew it could be, but I still couldn't be sure. That's why I dug deeper. And what I discovered, Camila, is not easy to hear. She took a deep breath, grabbed my hand, and said slowly, "There's a network behind all this. A group that makes the changes. It's not just this hospital. There are doctors, judges, social workers, all involved. They switch babies born with the wrong sex for some families. They make up new stories, like they made up yours." I couldn't speak. My eyes were fixed on her, but the world around me seemed to be spinning. I felt nauseous, angry, afraid. Why? Why would anyone do that? I asked, swallowing my tears. Money, control, selfishness. Some parents don't want girls, and others don't want boys, so they pay a lot for it. And those babies are taken from their mothers and switched. Because when they are switched, the mothers have a baby in their arms and believe it was a mistake in the sex tests. It happens to women who are alone, vulnerable, I asked, my voice already breaking. As we had already discovered, parents who wanted a boy and had a girl, or vice versa. Families who rejected their own children and then exchanged them, gave them away, disappeared, and in their place gave another baby, sometimes with false papers, sometimes with new names, all done within the hospital, with the help of those who should have been caring for the lives of those babies. I felt my stomach turn. I wanted to vomit. It hurt so much that I could hardly breathe. The world felt dirty, too cruel for someone like Mateo, like me, like so many other mothers. Then I said slowly, as if putting the pieces together, Maybe they took my real daughter and put Mateo in my arms to hide that. Lucy lowered her eyes and confirmed with a simple, "Yes, that's probably what happened." The tears came pouring out, heavy. I cried for myself, for Mateo, for the girl I carried in my womb, and who is perhaps somewhere without knowing that she had a mother who loved her before she was born. I cried for all the women who were not listened to, for all those who were called crazy, who were forgotten, erased. Lucy hugged me tightly, and in that embrace I felt that the pain was shared, but I also felt that something inside me was changing. I was no longer just a lost woman. I was a wounded mother, and wounded mothers, when they find strength, become giants, because no one can take away our right to love or our right to fight. After everything Lucy told me, I spent the night unable to sleep, sometimes lying down, sometimes sitting with Mateo in my arms, staring into the darkness, silently asking my head to give me back what they took from me. And it was on one of those nights, when the silence in the house was so deep that you could hear my heart beating, that it began to happen. They came like little flashes. They weren't dreams. They weren't imagination. It was as if pieces of my life were trying to come back, and I grabbed each piece like someone grabbing a rope to keep from falling. I saw rain, lots of rain, wet ground, a dark street. I was soaked, my clothes clinging to my body. I felt pain, a sharp pain in my belly. I screamed. I cried for help. A woman was holding me, telling me to breathe, that everything was fine, but it wasn't. I screamed the whole time, "My daughter, where is my daughter?" Then came the sound, screams, running footsteps, hands pulling me, laying me down on a stretcher, confused faces, bright lights. I was moving. I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to sleep, but they forced me. And when I woke up, my arms were empty. I woke up sweating, crying. Mateo was sleeping peacefully. I was shaking from head to toe. I knew it wasn't just a dream. It was a memory. It was real. In the days that followed, more pieces came back. Blurry images. A simple room. A suitcase packed in a hurry. And then a name that appeared like a whisper in the wind. Alejandro. I said that name out loud and felt a lump in my throat. I knew that name. I loved that name. But at the same time, something inside me stopped. Who was Alejandro? A doctor, a friend, a man who saved me or betrayed me. I went to Lucy and said, "Lucy, a name popped into my head. Alejandro. It's important. I'm sorry. He was with me before everything else. Maybe he knows what happened." Her eyes widened. "That could be the thread we need to pull on. Let's find out who he is." And so, with Alejandro's name on my lips and pain in my chest, the search for my daughter took a new path, a path full of fear, but also of hope, because maybe, just maybe, that name was the key to finding the part of me that was missing. When I told Lucy Alejandro's name, she quickly wrote it down and started investigating that same day. She had her ways, her contacts, her paths. She spent hours on the computer searching through files, calling people I didn't even know. And there I was, my heart tight, Mateo in my arms, unable to stop thinking, does he still remember me? At the end of the afternoon, Lucy appeared in the living room with a different look on her face, the look of someone who had found something big. She sat down next to me, took a deep breath, and said calmly, "Camila, I found him." My eyes filled with tears instantly. I felt my heart beating so hard that it seemed like it was going to jump out of my chest. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice trembling. "In Puebla. He works in a small, very simple clinic in the center. He's still practicing medicine. It seems like he never left there." Puebla. It was far away, but it didn't seem so far for someone who had already been through so much without knowing where she was going. Lucy continued explaining. "He doesn't have social media. Nothing very personal. He lives discreetly. But I spoke to a lady who works at the clinic. She confirmed that he is there almost every day. He treats people for free when he can. It seems like he is very well liked." I closed my eyes. His name was no longer just a sound. Now it had direction. It had history. It had substance. It was real. "We have to go see him," I said without thinking twice. Lucy put her hand on mine. "We were going to go, but take it easy. If he's who you think he is, he may have answers you need. but he may also have difficult truths. Are you ready for that? I took a deep breath. I looked at Matteo, who was playing with a rag doll on the floor. I thought of my daughter, who is still out there somewhere. No matter what he says, I just need to look him in the eye. Lucy nodded, and in that moment, a mixture of courage and fear that I had never felt before was born in me. Alejandro was alive, and maybe, just maybe, he was the light I needed to keep searching for what had been taken from me. The trip to Puebla was long. We took a simple bus, stopping in several small towns along the way. Matteo slept on my lap, and I looked out the window at the passing landscape, trying to remember some sign, some little piece of my life that would remind me of Alejandro. But all I felt was something strange, as if I had been there before. At every corner, at every bend in the road, my heart beat faster. It was as if my body remembered before my mind did. Lucy was by my side the whole time, holding my hand when I squeezed it too hard, calming me when I trembled with nerves. She understood. She knew how important this moment was. It was as if everything was preparing for a reunion that the whole world wanted to avoid. When we arrived at the clinic, it was already late. The sun was beginning to set behind the mountains, painting the sky orange. The entrance to the clinic was simple, with a small sign and a rusty iron gate, but to me it looked like the door to a whole new world. Lucy rang the intercom. A woman answered. She asked who we were. Lucy just said, "We're looking for Dr. Alejandro. Tell him it's important, very important." We waited a few minutes in the hallway. I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my mouth. Matteo woke up, looked around, and stayed quiet on my lap, as if he also knew that this was a special moment. The door opened slowly. A tall man in a white coat appeared. He had dark, slightly disheveled hair and brown eyes full of fatigue, but when he saw me, he froze. His gaze went straight to my face and stayed there, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His eyes filled with tears, his mouth trembled. He took a step toward me and whispered in a broken voice, "My God, Camila, is that you?" My whole body shook. My legs trembled, my eyes filled with tears, and even though I still didn't understand everything, even though my heart ached so much, I knew in that moment that he knew me, he knew who I was. And from that look, from those tears he couldn't control, I also knew that he loved me. I stood there, speechless, and he approached me slowly, as if afraid of scaring me. He touched my face with trembling hands. He cried shamelessly, like someone who had lost something he loved very much, and found it again. After so much time, after so much pain, Lucy remained silent. I chose our daughter. My hands were shaking on my lap. The words "our daughter" echoed in my chest like an arrow. We left the city, leaving everything behind. We arrived in Puebla, where no one knew us. We made a simple life, but one full of love. You made plans for the baby's arrival. You prepared clothes, wrote names in a little notebook, had a beautiful belly. You were so happy. Tears were already streaming down my face. I saw his words as if they were movies in my head, pieces of me slowly coming back. And then Camila grabbed my hand. You started to feel pain. It was still very early. We rushed to the hospital. I left you at the entrance in a wheelchair and went to park the car. When I came back, you were gone. They said you had never been there. There were no cameras, nothing. You disappeared. The pain in her eyes broke me inside. I looked for you, Camila, for days. I went to every hospital in the city, put up posters, asked for help, but you disappeared, as if you had vanished into thin air. I never saw you again. I never heard any news, not even about our daughter, nothing. He knelt in front of me with his hands in mine. I thought you had died, and with you, our baby. I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I hugged Alejandro so tightly that it seemed as if I wanted to put back together all the pieces of the life that had been stolen from us. And there, in that tight embrace, I cried for everything, for myself, for him, for our missing daughter, and for all the lost time that now screamed inside our hearts. Lucy remained silent while Alejandro and I cried in that reunion full of pain and nostalgia. She respected that moment. She was looking at her cell phone the whole time until she got nervous. I already knew that more pain was coming, but I also knew that now, with Alejandro by my side, I was stronger. She looked us firmly in the eyes and said, "Camila, I was able to confirm what we already suspected. The network that stole your daughter is not small. It's a large group with important people behind it. My stomach churned. Alejandro squeezed my hand tightly. Lucy showed us her cell phone and pointed, "Here is the list of calls between people operating in various cities, including here in Puebla. The hospital where they took you that night is in this document. Your name appears in a false record, as if you had been discharged on the day of the birth, without a companion, without a baby. But I never left there. They never gave me my daughter," I said with a broken voice. "I know, because your delivery was forced, Camila. They went in, took your daughter out prematurely, and sold her. She was barely born." His words were like stabs. Alejandro put his hand to his chest, trying to hold back the tears. I felt my legs go weak, but I remained seated, steady, because now I needed to hear the rest. "They saw you as an easy target, young, without family, close by, far from your city, and when you went into shock, your mind shut down, and that's when they took advantage, disappeared with your daughter, and put another baby in her place." Lucy took a deep breath and looked at Mateo, who was playing on the carpet with a rag doll. "Mateo, he was given to you to cover it all up. He was the missing piece so that no one would suspect the disappearance of your baby. He is also a victim, a baby rejected by another family, an innocent used to erase a life." The tears wouldn't stop falling. I bent down, picked Mateo up and hugged him tight. His smell, his warmth was all that kept me going. "They tried to erase you, Camila, to turn you into a number, into a faceless woman, but you survived. And now we are going to recover your story with truth and with justice." Alejandro hugged me from behind. The three of us stayed there, pressed together, united by pain, but also by the strength not to give up. They erased my past, but I was there, alive, and with a promise in my heart that I would find my daughter and recover everything. The months that followed, almost 2 years, were the most difficult of my life. I already knew the truth, but the most painful part was still missing. Finding my daughter, the girl they took from me, whom they didn't even let me hold, look at, kiss on the cheek, and knowing that and not having her with me, it was like living with half a heart. Lucy didn't stop for a second. Every day she brought news, names, documents. Some seemed like good leads, but they ended up being dead ends. Every time a door closed, my chest tightened. But even though I was tired, even though I was afraid, I kept going because I was no longer just the woman they forgot in a hospital. I was a mother, and a mother never gives up. During that time, something began to happen inside me. Memories began to return, not all at once, but little by little, as if my heart and mind were making room for everything that had been forcibly taken from me. I remembered the day I told Alejandro I was pregnant. We were sitting on a park bench, and I was shaking with nerves. He was silent for a second. Then he hugged me so tightly that I could hardly breathe. He cried and called me my love, saying he would be the best father in the world. I remembered the suitcase we packed in secret, the fights with his family, the shouting. I remembered the night we left the city holding hands, without looking back, ready to start over in Puebla. And I also remembered my family, my mom telling me I ruined my life, my dad turning his back on me. They abandoned me when I needed them most, leaving me alone when I needed a hug the most. That hurt a lot, but I left it in the past because at that moment, the only thing that mattered was finding my daughter and rebuilding what had been taken from me. It was a cloudy afternoon when Lucy came running in, her face full of excitement. We were all gathered together, me, Alejandro, and Mateo, who was already taking his first steps. She entered the room with tears in her eyes and said, "We have a lead, an orphanage in San Antonio, an old record of a girl who was left there by a family who gave up on her. The age matches the time of your delivery. Her name is Sophia." When she said that name, something inside me vibrated as if my body knew before my mind did, as if the name Sophia had been whispered inside me forever. I got up from my chair with tears in my eyes and my voice trembling. "Let's go there now." And so, with my heart broken into pieces, but with my feet firmly on the ground, I began the most important journey of my life, the journey back to my daughter. We arrived at the orphanage with our hearts in our mouths. It was a simple place, with high walls and a rusty iron gate. Inside, some children were playing in a courtyard with old swings, smiling and running as if they were unaware of the pain they carried inside. I looked at each little face and thought, could one of these girls be my daughter? Lucy asked to speak to the director. They took us to a room with white walls and a table full of papers. The woman who received us was serious, with a stern face and carefully chosen words. Lucy explained our search. She mentioned the name Sophia, the date of birth, and the documents we had. The director listened silently, and when Lucy finished, she crossed her arms and replied curtly, "I'm sorry, but we don't have any girls with that name, and even if we did, we couldn't give you any information without a court order." I felt my world fall apart again. My eyes filled with tears, and I took a deep breath, trying not to cry out. Alejandro stood up from his chair and tried to speak, but she didn't want to continue the conversation. She asked us to leave. We were already at the gate, about to leave, when a younger worker with kind eyes approached Lucy and whispered something to her. Lucy looked at me and said, "Wait here." The girl took Lucy to a room in the back. We stayed there in the courtyard with Mateo in my arms and Alejandro by my side, silently waiting. After a few minutes, Lucy returned with a piece of paper in her hand. It was crumpled. It looked old, but I saw that she was trembling as she held it. She placed the sheet in my hands and said softly, "She gave it to me secretly. It's a list with the real names of the children who came here. Many of them had their names changed later, for we said we were a couple interested in adopting and that we wanted to meet some children. Alejandro went with me, and Lucy stayed outside, waiting for any sign. As we walked down the hallway to the playground, where the children were playing, my hands were sweating. My eyes desperately searched for a little face, a glance, any sign, and when the playground door opened, I stopped. She was there, alone, sitting in a corner, drawing on a torn piece of paper, straight black hair, tied back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes, my God, her eyes were mine, exactly the same, big, dark, deep. My knees buckled. I had to lean against the wall to keep from falling. Alejandro held my arm tightly and whispered, "It's her." I took a few slow steps toward her. The world around me disappeared. The noise of the other children faded away. It was as if only she existed there. She looked up, looked at me with a curious but calm gaze, and then, in a soft little voice, asked me, "Are you my mom?" That question broke me inside. Time stood still. The floor disappeared. I felt everything inside me come to the surface. All the pain, the memories, the fears. Everything turned into tears. Everything turned into emotion. She smiled. A shy, small smile, as if she weren't sure. A smile full of silence, but so true. I tried to speak. I swear I tried, but nothing came out. Not a word. Only my mouth trembled. So I did what my heart told me to do. I knelt in front of her, opened my arms, and hugged her. I hugged her with the strength of a mother who had spent years broken into pieces, with the love of someone who waited for that moment, not knowing if it would ever come. I cried like I had never cried in my life, and she hugged me back with her little hands. We stayed like that for minutes, just her and me, and in that hug, I felt it. I didn't need proof or papers or anything else. She was my daughter, and I was her mother, and there, in that moment, two broken hearts found each other and began to heal together. After that reunion, nothing else mattered except fighting for her, for my daughter, for my Sophia. But I knew that hugging her that day was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a battle that would demand everything from me. Lucy was ready with all the documents, the tests, the hospital records, the orphanage records, and the DNA test confirming that Sophia was my biological daughter. And even with all that, justice. Justice was slow. It was hard. We had to file a lawsuit. I was called to hearings. I sat in front of judges, prosecutors, psychologists. I talked about my erased memory, about the forced delivery, about Mateo, about everything they took from me. And every time I spoke, my heart broke again, but I spoke firmly, because this time, no one was going to silence my voice. The press began to follow the case. Lucy wanted to show everything they had discovered. The allegations came to light. Other women began to ask for help, and that gave strength to my case. The truth was coming out. It was then that after months, the family that had registered Sophia as their daughter appeared. Summoned by the judge, they came to a hearing. They were a well-dressed couple, cold, with no emotion in their eyes. When asked why they left the child at the orphanage, the woman replied without looking down, "We wanted a girl, and when we found out it was a boy, we didn't accept it, and it was difficult. It was at the hospital that they told us there were mothers who felt the same way, and that for a fee we could simply exchange her. We paid the fee, and she came home. We looked at her, and felt nothing. We couldn't love her. We felt she wasn't ours. So we decided to leave her at the orphanage and get on with our lives to try to have another girl." Hearing that was like being stabbed. It hurt more than any physical pain I've ever felt. How could anyone say that about such a sweet girl, so full of love? I closed my eyes and thought of her, of that shy smile, of the question she asked me, "Are you my mom?" The judge, after hearing everything, looked at me gently, and at that moment, without saying much, gave me what my heart wanted most. Official custody was mine, legally, in body, soul, and now also on paper. I left that courtroom with my legs shaking, but my heart full. Sophia was mine, and no one else could take that away from me. She wasn't rejected. She was returned by people who didn't know how to love, but she found in me the love that will never end. Because a mother isn't just someone who gives birth. A mother is someone who doesn't give up, who fights, and who holds on tight, even when the whole world tries to take away what is hers. The day I brought Sophia home was the most beautiful day of my life. The sky was clear, and I felt that everything inside me was also beginning to light up. She held my hand gently, walking slowly beside me. She was still shy, still distrustful of the world, but there was peace in her eyes. Matteo was in the living room playing with his blocks. When he saw me come in, he ran into my arms, as he always did. I picked him up and crouched down to Sophia's height. "Sophia," I said softly, my heart tightening. "This is Matteo." She looked at him as if she were seeing something new and important, and then took a curious step forward. She looked him up and down, with those dark eyes that were just like mine. The two of them stared at each other for a few seconds that seemed like an eternity. Then, in the purest, most sincere voice I have ever heard, she asked, "Are you my brother?" Matteo, even though he was so little, answered without hesitation, nodded his head, and said, "Yes, I am." It was simple, it was direct, and it was enough to break me inside. Sophia smiled, that shy, half-hidden smile that I was already beginning to love, and then she moved a little closer, sat down on the floor next to him, and picked up one of the blocks. Without saying another word, they began to play together. I stood there watching the scene with tears in my eyes. Two hearts that weren't born together, but were made for each other. Two lives that the world tried to separate, but that love brought together again there on the living room floor. Among toys and soft giggles, my family truly began. Not perfect, not planned, but real and full of love. After everything calmed down and Sophia was home, Alejandro called me to talk. We were sitting on the terrace watching the children play in the yard. Matteo was running after a ball, and Sophia was drawing on the ground with colored chalk. It was a beautiful, simple scene that I never thought I would experience. He took my hand, looked me in the eyes, and said lovingly, "Camila, now that we are together again, now that we have our children, I want us to go back to Puebla. I want to rebuild everything with you. Our home, our life, our love." My heart tightened. It was everything I was supposed to want. He was the man who truly loved me, who never gave up on me, who mourned my absence for years. He was my daughter's father, and now he was there with open arms, offering me a new beginning. But inside, I knew I wasn't ready yet. I looked down, took a deep breath, and spoke honestly. "Alejandro, I love you, and nothing in the world will change that, but I'm still broken inside. I went through things that I don't even know how to explain properly. There are parts of me that are still hurting, and I need time to heal." He was silent for a few seconds, his eyes filled with tears. Then he nodded with a look of understanding. "I understand, Camila, and I'll wait as long as it takes. I just want to see you well, to see you happy, even if it's from a distance." I cried right there, without shame, because it wasn't a no, it was just a not yet. Because before starting over with someone, I needed to find myself completely. I needed to heal the wounds that still hurt, even if good things were happening. We stayed there hugging, watching Matteo stumble and laugh, watching Sofia draw a house with 2 little windows and a heart in the middle. Even though he is not my biological son, he is mine in every way, in his gaze, in his affection, in the way he hugs me, as if I were his whole world. One day, one of the volunteers asked me, "How were you able to move forward with so much pain?" And I replied with tears in my eyes, "Because Matteo saved me. He arrived at a time when I didn't even know who I was, and he was the one who gave me a reason to go on. He is not my biological son, but he is my angel, and that is worth more than any DNA. And Sofia, oh my little girl, today she loves to draw. She spends hours with colored pencils in her hands, drawing little houses and flowers, and in every drawing there is a woman with long hair and a big smile. She always gives it to me and says, 'It's you, Mama Camila.' She signs each drawing with her special way of writing, carefully writing, for Mama Camila. I keep each one as if they were pieces of my mended heart, because today, more than ever, I am a real mom, in soul, in struggle, and in love. Even with everything I have achieved, with all the truth that has come to light, there are still nights when I wake up scared, sometimes for no reason, sometimes crying. It's as if a scream is trapped inside me. I hear a baby crying in the background, a cry that comes from a dark time, from a cold room, from a day when I didn't even know my name. It's strange because I know that cry isn't Matteo's, it's not Sofia's. It's the cry that stayed, the cry that will accompany me forever. The cry of a woman who was torn from herself and left there alone, carrying a baby she didn't know where it came from. And yet she loved it. She loved it with all her soul. But in those moments, when fear visits me, I turn to the side and see 2 hearts there with me. Sofia, with her messy hair, asleep hugging one of her drawings. Matteo, with his calm little face, always close by. 2 children, 2 lives, 2 miracles that remind me that love doesn't follow rules. It just happens, and when it happens, it heals. If I could turn back time, oh, if I could, I would only ask to remember sooner so that I wouldn't have lost so much, so that I could have seen my daughter's face when she was a newborn, so that I could have rocked her in her early days. But maybe with everything as it was, that's how it had to be, because even the pain brought me to this moment, because it was because of that pain that I became who I am today. And if one day life plays another trick on me, if one day my memory fails me again, if everything is erased as before, I only ask for one thing, that someone look me in the eyes and say, "Camila, you were the mother the world wanted to erase, but you won, you loved, you fought, you didn't give up, and you brought your children back home, because in the end, that's who I am, a mother with a whole soul and an open heart, a mother who was broken into pieces, but she rebuilt herself out of love." This story is not just about pain, it's about resilience, about the power of a woman who had everything taken from her, even her identity, but who found the strength to carry on in her love for her children. It's about courage, about not giving up, even when the world turns its back on you. And above all, it's about what it means to be a real mom. Now tell me, if you were in Camila's place, what would you do if you woke up with no memory, a baby in your arms, and a life that isn't yours? Or in Alejandro's place, who lost the love of his life and never stopped searching? Or even in Sofia's place, who just wanted to know if the woman hugging her was really her mother? Leave me a comment here about what you felt, what touched you the most. I read everything with love and reply when I can. And of course, if you haven't activated the bell here on the channel yet, click on it now so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories. There are many powerful and exciting things coming. And before you go, there's a video on the screen that has already made many people cry and think about their own lives. Click on it now. It's a story about forgiveness, new beginnings, and how sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. I'll see you there.